Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, over 2 days and in 12 sessions with an elite of politicians and strategic experts and researchers and policy makers from the UAE and different parts of the world. Abu Dhabi's strategic debate in its 12th edition discussed the regional and international situation, and to preserve your ideas and your contribution, I will summarize in my speech the main issues and trends presented in the 12th debate. In the first day, in which the sixth session, there was a focus on AI. The debate was exploring the challenges for the international order, which was built since 8 decades ago and suffering different problems and cannot continue the way it is now. In the keynote speech, His Excellency Dr. Anwar Gargash, diplomatic advisor to UAE President, said that the last agreement in Gaza is a beginning and not an end, and towards a path and the roadmap for governance and stability. And the UAE, in light of the vulnerability of the circumstances, will not participate, probably will not participate in the stability forces in Gaza. And he said that the current situation could lead to unlimited violence, and people of Gaza have suffered a lot and deserve a state where to live in dignity. He mentioned also that in Sudan there is a humanitarian crisis and the war should stop now. He highlighted the support by the UAE of a civil regime that will be independent from the warring parties and away from the Muslim Brotherhood. Diplomatic advisor said that despite the misguiding media campaigns on the UAE, we will be continuing our support of the Sudanese people, and the UAE refuses the military solutions in political crisis. In the first session, the UAE, with its leadership on AI, speakers spoke about leadership of the UAE in AI is based on a clear vision to reverse catching up with the others. And it is based on the vision and the speed of execution and working with other partners from the world. In terms of the relations of the UAE with the competition with other superpowers for AI, the speaker said that the approach of the UAE is to work with the best without siding with one party or the other. And when there is a need for the dealing with the electronic chips, the UAE choose the US because it's the best. But for the UAE to confront deepfake, it's working with everyone, with the US, with China, and others. And then the debate in the second session on American policy and international transformation, reformulating the liberal regime, was discussing the changes in the American foreign policy under President Donald Trump and the role of those transformation in the global international order. And the session talked about the confusion shaping the foreign policy of the US as a result of the deep conflict between the Democratic and the Republican parties and the whole of the US in the world, and also definition of the interest of the US and the principles of multilateralism. And the session talked about the American elections as a main factor in defining the future of American policy and whether it will be based on bipartisan regime or not. And the session talked about the emergence of China, which carries a multilateral perception of the new international order, and it was worthwhile that speakers focused on the role of technology, not to control the international order, but also to impact its nature. In the third session, the strategy of China in a changing global order, the speakers highlighted that the mutual alliance between China and the US is receding since Trump took office. And it is difficult to predict the strategic impact of such a trend. But the network of global exchange and foreign trade became more complicated. The speakers said that the strategic importance of the Arab Gulf area necessitated that this region should be neutral as region for energy and trade. At the geopolitical level, the Chinese experts said that the engagement of China cautiously in the issues of conflict and peace in the world enhances the role of America. And it was mentioned that the President Trump seems to be caring less about Taiwan and less focused on it compared to other presidents. This is something that China prefers. And then there was the issue of security of Europe, and Europe looks at security and defense, and the alliance on itself has become very important to it. But it should not be at the expense of other issues that have characterized Europe, such as climate change and society, peace, and liberal regime. And there was a recognition that the European Union should accelerate its work in AI to catch up with big players such as USA and China. The speakers in the fifth session talked about the understanding of Russia that resolving the issue in Ukraine needs to take into consideration the fears of Russia, existential fear about the expansion of the NATO. The speakers talked about the possibility of escalation between Russia and European countries, particularly with the increasing number of drones accidents and hybrid war. And the session talked also about what the common points about US and China is a strategic relation more than alliance, and it is in their interest to develop that relation. And Russian role in Africa and the Middle East is still limited. While it was clear in that session that Russia is far away from competition with China and the US in AI, to put an end to the war in Ukraine could liberate the Russian economy and unleash its power in the Arctic. In the sixth session with corridors and semiconductors, and the discussion focused on the nature of competition between the US and China, on the areas, new areas of hegemony in the world, such as trade corridors and logistic corridors and tools of technology and the air, earth, and how such competition could lead to challenges such as more polarization in the world. But many countries in the world tend to adopt policies of diversification and hedging and independence to stay away from polarization. The speaker spoke also about the emergence of trends for new alternatives from tools of hegemony in financial fields, in technology and trade. And it is expected for these trends to expand in future. On the second day, and the theme of the Middle East before October 7 and starting with the 7th session, Engineering a New Regional Policy, the speakers said that despite the main change witnessed by the Asian, the regional engineering is not completed yet, and coercive settlement and reaching an independent regional system is not yet possible, as the nation state need to be enhanced, and there is no escape from building a Palestinian state, and the Gulf state consider stability, economy, and the aspect of international law the main pillar of the constructive regional engineering. And the project of IMEC was mentioned as an example of the regional engineering. But among the prominent changes is that the illusionary equation that there are only three actors, Israel, Iran, and Turkey, is no longer valid, which means taking into consideration the other actors. In the 8th session on considering the strategy of Iran at the regional level, the speakers spoke about the fact that Iran is at a strategic crossroads between producing its traditional approach or being involved in a new course based on realism and integration. And this is a course that will serve regional stability in the long term. The speakers from the Iranian side considered that the region needs a new regional structure, and that Iran is working diligently to be part of this structure, because there are attempts to isolate Iran and push it away from development plans and international corridors. And the speakers from Iran said that communication channels with Americans are many, but credibility and the current results are limited. In the 9th session on the future of New Syria and headwinds, the speakers agreed on the urgent need to build the state and to reform and update the laws and to expand the representation and the successful transition from the economy of war to the economy of peace and official state, and with the underlying needs for governance, transparency, and independence. And at that session, it was highlighted that Washington wants from the President Ahmad al-Shah to move completely to a system of Western alliance and fighting ISIS. And it was mentioned that Washington has a lot to do in Syria. And regarding Lebanon, the challenges of restoring the states and sustainable peace in the 10th session, challenges were discussed, such as implementing the necessary economic reform required by the international community, or disarming Hezbollah, and the prospects of relations with Israel and Syria and the US and also GCC countries. And the speakers agreed on the challenges of the phase and the need not to miss on the opportunity available for Lebanon to get out of the circle of crises and to stay away from any possible war with Israel and to achieve independence. And the speakers noticed that there are attempts to restructure the government in Lebanon, but it is happening slowly. And they mentioned that the success of Syria in starting a phase of construction and recovery will have a positive impact on Lebanon. In the 11th session titled Israel, War Within, War Without, the Israeli policies after 7 October and the impacts of the conflict in which Israel got engaged on different fronts, including on mainly Gaza front, and Israel. It was said that Israel started military efforts to respond to October the 7th, but till now it does not want to engage in political efforts to build on the military efforts. And the speakers discussed the agreement to end the war in Gaza, and it looks like the prospect of making that agreement successful depends on the European efforts and also the American effort with President Trump and the engagement also of the Palestinian Authority. In the last session on Gaza after war and governance, and which just ended earlier, and it discussed a formation of stability force in Gaza and hesitation of Arab state to engage in that force, while the Palestinian Authority wants to play a role in Gaza. It was mentioned that the agreement of Gaza is like no peace and no war, and that there are still till now no credible reference, legal reference from United Nations or Palestinian Authority regarding the forces or disarming Hamas or the yellow line or the humanitarian efforts or other issues. Ladies and gentlemen, this was highlights of what was discussed at Abu Dhabi strategic debate in its 12th edition, with different ideas and contributions linked to analysis and exploration of the international and the regional order, and shaping the map of the actors, the winners and the losers, and how they all engage in the new era, which shed lights on many issues and deepened our understanding. In conclusion, I would like to thank all the speakers, ladies and gentlemen, who shared with us their ideas and the expectation. I would like also to thank the moderators who deployed significant efforts to get some results from those sessions. I would like to thank all the guests, and also I would like to thank His Excellency Dr. Anwar Gargash, the diplomatic advisor to His Highness the President of the UAE, who honored us with his keynote speech at this debate. I would like also to thank media outlets who covered the sessions of this debate. And finally, I would like to express my pride of the staff of Emirates Policy Center, which started months ago preparing for this debate from different aspects in terms of issues and logistic issue, despite the small size of the center. And I should not also forget the volunteers, males and females, who supported us during the days of the debate. Thank you for your participation and for your interaction. Thank you to all of you. And I look forward to meeting you in Abu Dhabi Strategic Debate in its 13th edition next year here in Abu Dhabi. Until then, I wish you plenty of health and success and prosperity, and peace be upon you. If you allow me, would like to watch a video of what took place in the last 2 days. Please keep seated.
Let me begin by thanking the Emirates Policy Center for organizing this important forum and for the opportunity to address you today. As COP30 continues in Brazil, the UAE also continues to champion practical climate solutions, not through slogans, but through technology, investment, and genuine international cooperation. As a leading hub for entrepreneurs and innovators, the UAE stands as a bridge for peace, stability, and shared prosperity in the Middle East and beyond, across the region from Gaza to Sudan, Libya, Yemen, and the Levant. Only political solutions can deliver lasting peace. There is no military path to stability.
إن نموذج دولة الإمارات التنموي يشرق أكثر فأكثر باستقرار دول الإقليم جميعها وتحقيق شعوبها طموحاتهم الوطنية في الكرامة والازدهار والتحرر من الظلم. ولهذا فإن تعزيز الأمن والاستقرار في عموم الشرق الأوسط مصلحة استراتيجية إماراتية.
اللي يميز دولة الإمارات أن عندنا يمكن معادلة فريدة مقارنة بأغلب دول العالم. لدينا الرؤية ولدينا أيضا سرعة التنفيذ ولدينا القدرة على العمل على شراكات مع أفضل شركات العالم لخلق هذه الريادة العالمية.
The question is going to be, is the liberal order on a global scale, if it is practiced by governments that have a bit more central control, but the benefits are expanded, does that change the liberal order or just the performance and the way that it is made?
Also because we have seen war return to our own continent, that is ongoing. And we have a strategy. I mean, if you listen to the President of the European Commission in her State of the Union, her message was clear. This is a fight for the future of Europe. It's about European independence.
The capacity and the capability to be autonomous in terms of your security and defense. And that doesn't come at the expense of the relationship within NATO or at the expense of the relationship with the United States. In fact, it's something that is very much desirable within NATO and from the perspective of the United States.
Is looking for diminishing the threats for its national security. This is the main aim of our foreign policy.
China has made a lot of institutional mechanisms under the broader BRI project. So in that regard, I think China achieved quite something.
Although the case of lithium, we have a higher, I would say, a better de-risked model on it because you have 5 countries and a global production kind of cycle.
Sometimes resolving conflicts is not sufficient. You have to think about what next, the day after the resolving conflicts. How can you sustain that resolution? And that necessitates economic resources, regional initiatives as well.
Bombed our machineries. You bombed our building, but you couldn't bomb our will, and you couldn't bomb our knowledge, and you couldn't bomb our know-how and technology.